Welcome back to another Film Geek movie review. In just a moment, I'm going to be walking my happy butt over to the futon to check out the new Shudder original, VHS Beyond. Now, if you're not familiar with the VHS series or franchise, it's a series of different horror anthology films. Each one of the stories is done by a different director, either an actor doing something, director, so on and so forth, maybe somebody brand new that we've never heard of. It's just a really cool little series that gets to showcase people's talents, basically. And this one looks like it is going to be a blast. Now, each one of these films, there's 7, I believe. I think this is the 7th in the franchise, and each one has a different theme to it. I believe they started doing that around the 3rd film. The first 2 movies, I don't recall them having a theme, but then it goes into like VHS 1980s or 1980, 1990, stuff like that. And so this one, Beyond, is sci-fi horror, which is one of my favorite mashups. I love some sci-fi horror just as much as I love horror comedy. They're 2 genres that go together like peanut butter and jelly. So you know what? It is enough of me sitting here yammering on because I got a movie to watch. And you know what? My cat Haku is sitting over there waiting on me. And we all know how freaking impatient that guy is about watching his horror movies. So I better get over there. Anyways, guys, see you back here in just a bit. It's time for me to check out VHS Beyond. Welcome back. Just getting done checking out VHS Beyond, and guys, I really enjoyed this movie. I had an absolute blast watching this film. So let's get this started, shall we? We're going to get things started with negatives, then move into positives to end the video on the ever so important high note. Okay, so I forgot to mention this in the intro, but the VHS series is found footage horror. So if you are not a fan of found footage horror, you're probably not going to find a lot of stuff here. This has all of the tropes that you find in found footage horror, shaky cam especially. There are some of these stories that the shaky cam gets way out of control. Each one of these stories also is presented in a different type of format. There's digital video, VHS, TV broadcast, film, so you kind of get a different look to each one of these stories. So in some of them, they are awfully grainy and really kind of, you know, the old VHS speckly and all of that. So if you don't enjoy stuff like this, you know, you don't like the shaky cam, completely understandable. I mean, I know there were points in this movie where I was getting very frustrated with the shaky cam. There's one story in particular that it's really bad because it's just somebody who has like a camera stuck on a helmet that they're wearing. So they're just running all over the place rapidly. And I mean, the story itself kind of made me start to feel a little bit nauseous, and not from gross special effects. There were those too, but mostly from this dude just running around. It was getting to the point where I'm like, oh my God, this story needs to wrap up quickly because this is getting old. So if these are things that you do not like whatsoever, you're probably not going to enjoy this film, because I know found footage horror is a little bit of a niche that not everybody enjoys. Okay, so that's really the only thing that I have to say negatively. Yes, there are things like there's a kind of a schlocky, goofy horror story in this that reminiscent of something like Reanimator. So, you know, it's very schlocky. This film is also extremely gory. This film has a lot of splatter horror gore to it, especially from the very first story. So if you're somebody who does not like a lot of gore in their films, again, this might not be your cup of tea. So let's move into the positives, shall we? And none of those are really negatives in my mind that drag the film down for me, but I could definitely see where some of that stuff would bother people. Let's move into the positives, shall we? So that gore that I talked about, some of you might not like it. However, I really enjoyed it. I thought that the gore and the practical effects that were used in this film were outstanding. And if there were scenes that had CGI, and there were some that utilized CGI a little bit, it was done done in such a way that it was on a low budget but still looked very, very good. And it was very fast paced in a lot of places too, so you really couldn't tell whether or not the form was 100% there or not because it moved so quickly. But other than that, the effects and all looked outstanding, especially all of the gore practical effects. This film also has 6 stories, well, technically 5 stories and 1 wraparound story, and each one of them is kind of their own style of sci-fi horror. Most of these stories revolve around aliens, but we also have robots. There's a crazy, as I was saying, Reanimator story that's directed by Justin Long. That story is a lot of fun. It is a crazy body horror. Again, like I said, just total Reanimator splatter horror fun. And then there is some more darker horror. I like the one that was the final story that was directed by Kate Segal. I was one of those more ironic, dark, more of a dark tale, less of a horror, that does have a little bit of cosmic body horror attached to it too. So each one of the stories has its own vibe. Hell, there's even a Bollywood story in this movie. So it's a blast. For anyone who is a fan of horror, you are definitely going to find something that you are going to enjoy in this. Each one of these stories is presented, like I said, in a found footage style. The wraparound story in this I really enjoyed. It's a documentary about some found footage that's solid proof of the existence of aliens, and I really enjoyed the wraparound story with this one. There were points where I was actually kind of like, okay, I am enjoying this story that I'm watching right now, but I want to know what happens more with that wraparound story, so let's get to it, guys. Let's get this ending going. I want to find out what's going on with the alien abduction story. So yes, it's a documentary style alien abduction story that really took me back to the old days, like the alien autopsy video and all. So all in all, film guys, this is a really solid, especially on a streaming service like Shudder, a really solid, fun horror movie, especially right now during spooky season, that I definitely think that if you are a subscriber of Shudder, you should check this one out. And if you're not a subscriber to Shudder, do that free little week thing, check it out, see if it's for you, but check this movie out because it is a lot of fun, especially if you are a fan of horror anthology. Well, that's all I have for you today, guys. Thanks again for checking out the Film Geek. If you liked what you saw here today, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications, and give me the old thumbs up so I know you like what you're seeing. And if there's one more thing you can do, folks, that is keep watching movies. You know I'm gonna.